You are listening to the Icehouse Podcast, hosting conversations with gritty Kiwi business owners and leaders and industry-leading minds.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Icehouse Podcast. My name is Bryar and I am the community manager here. And today I'm chatting with Ashlee Rose. I'm really excited for this conversation. Ashlee and I have been in touch over a few things. And so it's so nice to be jumping on Zoom to be recording this conversation about her background in marketing, general manager, and now with a few of her own businesses about to launch. She actually did the leadership development program with us through TrailLite a few years ago. She's now in Queenstown and is looking to launch a business in the space of connecting employees with employers and also launching a wellbeing platform for businesses and individuals to better support them in their mental wellbeing. I love that. I can't wait to hear more. So thank you so much for joining us, Ashlee.
Look, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you.
So cool. How's Queenstown going for you? And are you enjoying that move?
Yeah, look, Queenstown is beautiful. I've got the Remarkables in my vision out to my right, and it's just amazing scenery. Really interesting place to work and to live. There's a lot of challenges down here with housing, with like access to daycares, access to housing is obviously the biggest issue. So it'll be interesting to see how we transition full-time and long-term, but at this stage, enjoying it. So
totally. I have to connect you with some other business owners that have moved from, Auckland down to Queenstown and things like that recently, because it's definitely a little bit of a surge I'm hearing, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that's what's contributing to some of the challenges with housing as well, like a big influx of Aucklanders coming down to Queenstown, and why wouldn't you? Because it's beautiful. So
yeah, totally. Just the realities of it, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm keen to start this conversation like I normally do with some fun quick fire just to get us warmed up. What's your ideal holiday, Ashlee?
I'm probably a bit of an adventurer, so backpacking. I'm planning a little bit of a backpacking trip around Asia, so something off the beaten track is for me.
I like that. When are you most relaxed?
Probably on a beach or in the ocean. I do a lot of surfing, so something where I'm just outdoors on the beach or in the water.
Love it. When are you most productive?
Well, look, I've got a 15-month-old, so anytime he's asleep, I feel like, I think there's been a lot of comments around, mothers being really productive in the 2 hours that they nap. So probably something like that. I can get a lot done in a short amount of time now.
Yeah, good on you. That's amazing. I'm interested to know, is the backpacking through Asia with the baby?
Yeah. Yeah,
legend.
That's the plan. Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool. Very cool. Yeah. Do you have a book or podcast that you recommend people read or listen to?
Oh, look, I've got a few. I'm kind of on a mission this year to read at least a book a week. So I'm reading heaps. I usually am the person that has like 5 podcasts and 10 books on the go. So I just finished Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, and I'm reading the kind of equivalent Lean Out, and I can't remember her name, Melissa, I think it is. But those are really cool to read together, especially for women in leadership and the conversation around how to better kind of enhance women leadership. And I also have a lady from Christchurch, Annabelle Matson. I think it's called Steep Your Soul. That's the podcast I kind of turn to for some mindfulness, kind of mental well-being and leadership conversation.
Yeah, brilliant. I've also read Lean In, and it's really great. And
I
haven't read Lean Out. No, is it good?
Really interesting.
Cool.
It kind of flips the perspective. Like Cheryl's book's very much about like women kind of taking their seat at the table, like lean in, get involved, like kind of, this is what we want. And Lean Out is a bit more like, how do we actually apply a woman's perspective to what leadership might look like, or what their goals and ambitions are, and whether or not leadership is actually what they want, or do they want something else? And we can't apply the same lens to it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's really
it's
good.
Worth it. It's worth kind of applying both of them, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I'll definitely look into it. It sounds good. What was your first ever job?
I worked at a lettuce growers when I was like, I think maybe 14, picking lettuces and packing lettuces.
Amazing. That is great. I haven't
Yeah.
not heard that one before. I've got to say we've heard the milk runs and the newspaper drops and all that, but not lettuce picking. So well done.
It was quite physical, but yeah, it was fun being outside, I guess. And yeah,
Very cool. Very cool. Morning or night person?
Probably a morning person.
Yeah, cool. And coffee order?
Oh, decaf oat milk mocha.
Love it. You've got
It's
that down.
very embarrassing. My husband won't order it for me because it's too long.
So I'm not ordering that for you in public.
What do you want? Pardon?
That's awesome. Were you born with your strengths, or do you think you've learnt them over time?
Well, this is interesting. I think a bit of both, and I see it like obviously being a mother and watching Koa kind of grow up. I think there's definitely elements of your personality that you are born with and that you kind of gravitate towards. And then I think it's about your experiences and I guess your parenting and your schooling about what gets brought out and what gets fostered and what gets like, I guess, promoted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great answer. I love that. Cool. We're well and truly warmed up, which is a win. I'd like to sort of start the main questions with this really open one, and that is, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Ashlee and what are you passionate about?
Yeah, I love that question. It's a really hard one, I think, because I'm just kind of one of those people that gets passionate about everything. I can kind of get if something's like if I find something that I'm like, oh, I really like this, I'll get super into it. You know, when I was at TrailLite, I like loved motorhomes, and now I've got a motorhome and I'm a motorhomer. You know, I just kind of get behind things and really enjoy the experience of kind of diving into it. I love the outdoors. I love surfing, snowboarding, travel. And yeah, I guess I'm a yoga teacher as well. So I enjoy the kind of concept of helping people understand and learn about themselves a little bit better, and, you know, using the concepts of yoga, you know, flexibility, groundedness, you know, calmness to kind of integrate into people's lives, and showing how that can be done from a leadership perspective or from, you know, a team's perspective. How can we kind of apply some of those concepts into business? I get quite excited about that, because I think there's been a long time, and we learned this in our leadership development program, of this kind of 20th century leadership, which was all about like hard line, you know, tell people off and toe the line. And yeah, I kind of feel like there's been a really welcome shift away from that, and that gets me excited. You know, we were talking before about sustainability and social impact. I mean, anything that's got the ability to influence people's lives for the better just gets me excited too.
Yeah, we're on the same page with that. I love that. And I can just tell your passion, and I'm just so excited to be chatting with you, because I'm like, you're so passionate about so many things. And I'm looking forward to hearing what your career has looked like and what's got you passionate over the years. So with that, could you sort of unpack for us your career journey and yeah, what that looked like? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of left high school and I think like everybody didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think I was always and have always been waiting for this thing to just drop out of the sky and land on my lap and be like, Ashlee, you were born to be this, you know? And I think that that's a bit of a false dichotomy. I just don't think that should be what we kind of believe and aspire to, or teach people and teach kids, especially, you know, that kind of age old question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember being asked that so much, like, and I kind of ended up creating an answer and then thinking that was my truth. So I kind of went to university, and like I did a bit of law, and then I did a bit of like, I think I did a Spanish course, and I did all these things. And Then I ended up just going to Australia for a few years, and I did worked for like a major events company. So I did events all around Australia and New Zealand, which was super fun. Like just sort of served like a bit of a fun vibe for me.
Yeah.
And I ended up in regional Western Australia, working for the city of Karratha, actually, which was 1,600 k's north of Perth in the middle of nowhere.
Whoa.
And yeah, basically my role there was events similar to what I had been doing, but really around building arts and culture development in that community, trying to build more sustainability into people living and loving living in this really random place in the middle of nowhere. People will probably know it as being quite a mining town. They kind of had this different look at it about wanting to build like arts and culture. So I was involved in bringing like the Western Australian Ballet Company up and putting on these amazing showcases in the Pilbara, and just trying to bring some life into the community through events and tourism, I guess. So that was a really fun, creative, strategic part of my career. And I think that kind of started to get me thinking, when you work for council, everything has to be, I's dotted, T's crossed. And it kind of got me more, I guess, thinking more strategically and thinking about what the bigger picture was and why we do what we do. It's all good and well putting an event on, but when there's some key objectives that you've got to present back to council that, and we had a massive sponsor, it kind of gives you a little bit more perspective on why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
And then I backpacked around South America and came back to New Zealand and started working for TrailLite, and just grew through, I guess, a range of roles with them.
Very cool. Yeah. And so with them, correct me if I'm wrong, you were marketing manager for a bit and then general manager? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So I sort of started in like, I guess, a marketing role, and then, moved into marketing manager, and then took over kind of a GM role. It was GM of retail. So my responsibilities were really sales, marketing, and service. So, the customer focusing element of the business, dealing with our customer journey, making sure that from start to finish, the first time our customers sort of touched or connected with us, right through their life cycle, was sort of under my responsibility.
Yeah, amazing.
What
do you think?
Cool, sorry,
you go. No, you go.
It's a really cool perspective, I think, for businesses to take on, and like this kind of customer facing team, and I think it really had merit for TrailLite from that perspective, is really focusing on everybody's responsibility is to serve the customer, and having that one leadership person under over that was really great.
That is a great structure. I love that. From everything you have done, what do you think came most naturally to you? What roles or role?
Look, I think I've got a predisposition towards leadership. I think, like we talked about before, I kind of had a born personality, but I've also developed a whole lot of learnings and personal development through the decisions and the kind of directions I've taken, especially with that kind of yoga lens coming in, or that, self-help personal development lens, as well as a professional lens. So I think, anything I do next or in the future, I would really like to focus more on strategic leadership and looking at the picture. Very creative. So I think I can kind of chuck a whole heap of ideas at a page and come up with something quite cool.
Very cool. It sounds like you've got like a really great range of skill sets, and definitely the right ones to sort of start something of your own, which is obviously something you're very passionate about, heading in that direction now. So that's very cool.
Yeah, thank you. And look, I'm super grateful for, the opportunity that TrailLite presented me with as well, to kind of learn, a lot about operational stuff and, profit and loss, and some of the back end kind of business stuff that will really serve me well as I move into kind of that self-employed or business ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one thing you wish you knew at the start of your career journey?
I think it's really about, if I look at myself in my 20s, early 20s, it would really be about not trying to prove myself to other people. I think I was hosted on another podcast and I talked a lot about like this hustling for your self-worth. I think when we think we're not worthy of the roles that we are put into subconsciously, like it never shows up super consciously, but when we do that, we just spend so much time stressed and in this energy of like, I need to prove. And really, like you get the role, like if you got the role, you're in the right place.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, I think if we can just, especially as women, I think if we can, just be more confident in who we are and the skills that we bring, irrespective of if they're different to the person that was before you or is beside you, like we still have value to bring, and that value is enough.
Yeah, totally. I love what you said before around, that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then it's like, I was just thinking while you're saying that, I never would have said community manager at the Icehouse. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be a community manager. In fact, I'm not sure if community managers would have properly existed then, but well, they were, but you know what I mean? And I think
what would have you said?
Good question. It's funny though, I think I would have said TV presenter or something. And so in some ways, podcasting is slightly similar to that, but no, probably like TV presenter, or, when I was really young, I want to be a singer or an actress or something in performing arts. I was that kid growing up. What about you? What was your thing that you said?
The thing that comes to mind is I said lawyer, and I just think about that now, and I think, I think that comes from this place of like seeing success, lawyer, doctor, whatever, those kind of key core roles you see in society as being successful. And I think when I reflect on that, like, I'm not a lawyer. It's just not my personality. But I think for me, it was probably driven from this concept of like, what would look successful for me, and like, what would be like a cool kind of prestigious role to hold.
Yeah. So true. So true. It's kind of like that whole lean in, lean out thing, around why do we put on these expectations to sort of say things that just sound good, or follow the status quo. But like you said, I'm sure at the start of the journey, you didn't expect to be doing all the things that you ended up doing, because life isn't linear. But that's kind of the best thing about life, is that it takes you to awesome places, even Queenstown.
Exactly. And like, I think we need to normalize people not having this linear career path, like become lawyer, like be lawyer at a law studio, become partner by 30, and then just stay on this like journey. Like me, I'm currently not employed in full-time employment, and like, there's a lot of thought process around that for me. That's like, oh gosh, am I failing at my career because I've taken this like different approach? But that's just life, it's sort of I think I just think there's some element of normalizing that.
Absolutely, you're so right. I'd love to know now, and kind of ties in nicely with what you just said, what does a day in the life of Ashlee look like as you work towards launching these these products, these services, but also not looking in the normal standard linear 9 to 5?
I think at the moment, my life looks very different to anybody that's working in a corporate life. I'm still like full-time mumming. So,
Awesome.
There's a lot of kind of childhood stuff wrapped up in my life. But any moment I get to kind of do something creative or do something on my two kind of business ideas, I'm doing that, or I'm going for walks and just trying to understand what Queenstown life is like at the moment. I think, I'm in a bit of a state of transition and flux, and I'm normalizing that for myself as well, and just making that okay, and like, just kind of seeing where life takes me next.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. I love that. I love the honesty. And and just the contentment actually in that, because I think it's so important that we're content in each season that we're in. And yeah, there's highs and lows and all of that, but sounds like you're very content, and you should be. So yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, thanks, Bryar. I think, the contentment does take practice, and, again, like we've talked about it, success looks like a certain thing in our society. And when you're not fitting into that mold, you have to realize like you're making a conscious, I'm making a conscious decision to do that, to step outside of that. And I need to, and I'm okay with that. And yeah, it just takes a bit of work and a bit of practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so cool. What has been a highlight moment and a challenge of the journey so far? That can be from a work perspective, a job, personal leadership, whatever, but a highlight and a challenge.
I think both the highlight and a challenge is as getting the GM role and being promoted into that. I think, it's probably my couple of years of most personal growth. And that personal growth comes from the deep challenges that were within that, both, from a business perspective and also from like just myself navigating a new kind of leadership role, and how that looked and how that felt for me, and what I thought about myself within that role. And yeah, just both a highlight and a challenge, I think, alongside that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, love it. What is a piece of advice you would give a first time, general manager of an SME or within a key department of an SME like yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is self-reflection, and both personal and professional development. Like, I think it's always about being a learner and being open to change and open to learning about, sort of tangible things, the P&L or whatever you need to learn about, but also learning about yourself and the way that you're responding to your staff or your team, and the way you're responding to your stress, because, there's always something under stress, and it's usually something that, you can impact with the way you think about yourself. And so I think, yeah, I would approach any kind of promotion or step up into another role the same, and that is by combining personal and professional development, and really just trying to understand every trigger or every issue that gets presented to me with like a really holistic lens. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. Yeah. And looking after yourself through that process.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, I kind of adapted a like daily yoga practice, and like, really tried to, understand where my stress was coming from when I was stressed, so that I could kind of change that and not just accept that as being the status quo of being in a leadership role.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good. How did you, changing gears a little bit, but how did you hear about the Icehouse to start with, and the leadership development program?
Yeah, cool. So when we kind of promoted me into this role, I was very clear that I wanted some form of leadership development program.
Great.
As part of that, it was really important to me, and it was important to my owner operators as well. And Sean's actually done the owner managed program. Program. So when I was looking, I didn't just go to Icehouse, but I looked around a fair bit trying to find something, and I did find some other programs, but really Icehouse stood out as being kind of the best, and I guess the one that covered the most sort of variety of things, and just had kind of the best community, I guess, and the best learning. So
awesome.
Yeah,
very cool. I like that. And from the program, was there anything that you practically took on and then took back into the business?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of the learnings were probably personal reflections as well. We did a leadership blueprint with Joe, and that was really, really helpful. And I actually took that back and sort of told my team what I was working on, like, and where my sort of limitations were. I think we did like the 360 or something. And then, from that, I learned something about myself where I'm very extroverted. Like I was on the 100%, I think, like just under that. And one of the things that she said that I always remember is like how extroverted people can come across to introverts, and how when I'm in a meeting, I might be like, oh yeah, and just like throw ideas out into the space, but other people might think that means my ideas kind of are shutting theirs down. I kind of took that learning back, and just some of the other learnings as well, and explained to the team that was something I was going to work on. And I don't know if I think you people thought that, it kind of landed well, and just let them have permission to call me out on it too.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I love that. Yeah, I'm reflecting on it now because I'm also very highly extroverted. So I'm like, yeah, it's really true. That's a good point. But yeah, I love that. And that's something I hear often is those, deep personal reflection moments where you have that aha moment in a learning or a session, and you can take that back in and talk to your team about it. It's gold.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, again, lean in as inspiring our chat today, that, it kind of gave me confidence being in a room of, like, I don't know how many were in our cohort. There was quite a few, but 30, would that be right? 30 others.
Yeah.
Where, I did have a seat at the table, and my opinions and my voice was relevant, and it gave me confidence that, like, I do belong here. I do belong as a GM or as a senior leader in an SME in the business in New Zealand. Like, so I think it gave me a bit of confidence, I think,
Did you deal with imposter phenomenon, or, that sort of feeling?
I probably, not directly, but I think really this concept of, like, I've been given this role and now I need to prove that I'm worthy of this role. That I don't know if that's imposter syndrome or if it's like, just, I call it hustling for my worth, and I think, I was like constantly like, okay, what do I need to do to be the best leader? What do I need, like this kind of a perfectionism element that I've got too. And I guess when I kind of realized that I got the job for who I am, not for what I'm going to do to be better, then that kind of goes away a little bit. But yeah, I guess all of that is a never-ending learning curve.
It sounds like I can resonate with some of the things you're saying, so I'm diving a little bit deeper, but it sounds like, you've got that achiever part to your personality, that perfectionist sort of in the things that you put your mind to and put your hand up for. Was there anything pivotal in your personal journey that has made you sort of rethink some of that, what success looks like, standards or who I need to be as a leader? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, so much. I think it's a really good question. Look, I mean, I question this all the time. I think success, particularly in New Zealand society, looks a certain way. And I don't know. I think when I get to points in my life where I'm no longer feeling passionate and no longer feeling super connected to what I'm doing, it's the time to not let my kind of idea of what success looks like impact my decisions. Like, I guess leaving TrailLite and moving to Queenstown, and that is a pivotal moment of like going, okay, I'm not going to stay on the path of society's expectation of me being successful when it's not what I'm like kind of really filling my cup anymore, and yeah, does that answer that question?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that, if we kind of broaden that out to like even the success of businesses, are we all chasing $100 million unicorn, or are we just happy with the fact that we can spend more time with our families and we can go for a walk and we can get outside and I talked to you before about listening to the guys from the beach. What was it? The bed?
The flat pack company.
The flat pack company.
Yeah.
they moved to Tauranga because that was what fueled their cup. It was where they wanted to live and operate from. And I think, that's, we kind of need to renormalize people making decisions about what success looks like to them and not trying to fit a predisposed kind of concept of it.
Totally. Yeah, I so agree. When you look at it, life is so short. And if you're going to sit in something for even a few, a couple of years longer than, a year longer than you want to or need to be, it's like, what for? At the end of the day, our life is so short. We've got to be pursuing what we're passionate about, what gives us that fire, eh?
Absolutely. And I think even, from a business's perspective, it's okay for people to leave you. It's okay for that to be a natural transition of people's lives. Like, people come and go and they make impact and they move on. And yeah, we should be okay with that as well. I see a lot of people in New Zealand that have worked for companies for 40 years, for long periods of time, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's also, we should also normalize moving on. Maybe not every 6 months, but once that passion and that fire ends for you, it's okay to say that and be honest about that and to transition to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Great gold. I love that. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the ideas that you have, if that's okay. What sparked this idea of, connecting great employees with employers? And yeah, share as much as as you want to on that.
Yeah, cool. So we're in the really early stages of this idea, I guess. And really what it comes down to is, during my time at TrailLite, what impacted our growth a lot was access to good staff. And I think, access to good staff it's a really mixed issue at the moment, and it's kind of topical, but from what I can see is not everybody is looking for skills and experience that is exactly the same as what the job description entails. It's about finding, who would fit in with the team, who would help challenge us, who would kind of add a fresh perspective to our business that perhaps might not be attracted to the job description salesperson, who can really freshen up what we're looking for from a business's perspective. And then when I kind of left TrailLite along with my co-founders, like, we all kind of experienced a little bit of this kind of job market, applying for, putting my CV in my cover letter, sitting back, waiting for somebody to tell me, am I good enough for you? Like, it just really striked me as, super deflating. It was like, every time you get that email, it's an automated email, like, you have not been successful in moving to the next stage. It's a real, like, rip in the guts. Like, you're like, oh, okay, like, this sucks. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should stay where I am and not pursue additional opportunities. And I think for businesses, understanding and hearing that from potential candidates makes them go, oh, well, that's not what we want people to think, and so really, I won't go too much into the idea, but that's the problem that we want to solve. And we want to reimagine the way that the world applies for and looks for jobs, and also how employers connect with potential employees.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the idea is pretty cool. It's pretty, I'm actually surprised that we haven't kind of, been doing this 10 years ago, because marketing's moved on, the way we sell our products has moved on, but it appears that the way that particularly SMEs market to potential employers has not. So look, if anybody if anyone in your community is keen to chat to me about that, I'd love to hear from them. We kind of we don't have a website or anything yet, but I'll give you the way to get in touch with me. And yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. And what I love is that you're starting with that, strong problem that you're wanting to solve. And one that you've personally experienced before is always really helpful when you're building that business case, getting market validation. If it's something that you've personally, felt the emotion of before and want to make sure it's better for other people and for the businesses. And on that note, that yes, if anyone thinks I'd be able to support Ashlee, or would just be happy for her to give you a quick call and ask some questions and help her with her market validation of this awesome idea, then that would be really cool, and get in touch with me and I can do some connecting there. That would be really, really awesome. I would love to hear a couple more questions, if that's all right. And then,
yeah, please.
Did you always have a passion for that wellness space, or is that something that sparked within your leadership?
A bit of both. I think just natural, I guess, journeying through my 20s kind of, drew me to this space.
Cool.
I think I was involved. I was doing yoga teacher trainings and yoga and kind of learning courses about wellness and mindfulness and wellbeing before I took on the role at TrailLite, the GM role, the promotion. And yeah, I think then that kind of background and this new kind of leadership role kind of merged, and that's how I think when I talk about personal development, I talk a lot about mindfulness, wellbeing, mental health, emotional resilience, and just combining all of that up and wrapping that into leadership is kind of how that eventuated.
Yeah, very cool. I like that. And that platform, is there anything you'd like to share about that platform?
Yeah, I guess really it kind of started, it's interesting. It started a few years ago as being like, out of COVID, I was like, I'm going to teach yoga online. And then kind of, I just didn't get time to get into it. And it's sort of morphed now a little bit into being like yoga is purely a vehicle for you to find groundedness, calmness, flexibility, self-awareness in your life. And really what it's going to do, or what I want to do, is sort of speaking with businesses about this concept of sort of personal and professional development. Like, how do we become more of a mindful leader? And by that, I mean, how do we connect with our own insecurities? How do we understand those a bit better? And then how do we process them? And how do we kind of accept that they exist in a corporate setting? I think a lot of people are still super afraid of just saying like, look, I don't feel confident in this leadership role and I'm just working my way through it, and that's okay. And let's just normalize that.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a 3-step program coming together around how we create that mindfulness as leaders, how we create that mindfulness within teams, and then how we set up frameworks as a company to better kind of communicate the openness to these conversations and I guess to mindfulness. But I use the term, mindfulness and mental well-being and all of that's kind of used very broadly, and I use it broadly as well, because I think it means different things to different people. And if you're a business that's keen to explore this with your staff, you just have to find somebody that represents what you kind of value.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. I like that a
and
lot.
And then I guess the concept is after the programming and after the kind of, launching ground, you've got the online yoga and mindfulness and meditations that can help your staff to better, just integrate and better kind of, use some of the tools that are available to them to help integrate the learnings.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's really great. And I love that it's sort of more targeted towards businesses and business owners in that way. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think as individuals, there's so much stuff out there, and I think there's a lot of noise, and it's really hard to know which avenue to go down. And I think the yoga piece for me really, it really landed when I was using it as a tool in my leadership toolbox, like I know that sounds super corny, but
no, that's so right.
It kind of, when I used it really purposefully, it really changed the way that I led, and that I showed up to work, and that I showed up in my life and in my relationships as well.
Yeah, that's really great. I love it. So cool. I'm very freshly inspired from this conversation. So thank you.
I'm sure you are from every conversation. You just have the opportunity to talk to so many great people. And I appreciate you kind of letting me kind of share on here.
No worries. Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. I'll ask one last question, if that's cool. What does what does the future look like for you? But what is I'm going off script here, but what is, I don't mean success in our success standards, but what does success look like for you in the space of business well-being? And what does success look like in that space? It's a big one.
Yeah. Do you know the thing that comes to mind for me and something that I think personally I struggle with is it's really about giving it a crack and like really honoring that if I give it a crack, and same for both of them. One of the brand name at the moment for the HR or connecting employees and employers platform is Pikle, and my wellbeing one is Fawe, Fawe. So really it's just about pursuing them till I don't know, till they become something else, or till they, don't work anymore, and being okay with quote unquote failure, and being okay with maybe not eventuating into what they started off to be. And I don't know, just like really taking steps and making momentum and being okay with what unfolds. And I think that if I look back and said I gave it a crack, I would just feel like that's success.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what does success look like for like a community of business owners that have got behind, like if we were to look in 10 years and go, yes, like people finally got it, our business owners got it in terms of wellness, what do you think that would look like?
I honestly think that it's less about, people having yoga classes in their lunch breaks, and it's more about a general framework. Like they would really get it if they understood that people being like really competent and capable and succeeding in their roles is about them also succeeding in their own values and their own life. And people are people, right? Our teams are just made up of individuals that are going through their own stuff and living their own lives and combating their own triggers and their own challenges and their own upbringings. And I think well-being as businesses fully understanding that and kind of creating environments where people can prosper. And and that looks different to different people. And again, going to our lean in, lean out kind of theme is it's really about businesses understanding that within their teams and within the people that make up their teams, and just creating better conversation. I don't think that. I think a lot of people will talk about it being, working from home and the flip on 9 to 5 and these really tangible kind of changes. But I think it's just an essence. It's a change in the way that we set people up to work within our organizations.
Yeah. What I find really interesting about that, and I feel like this is similar within community, is you can't always measure that stuff. It's actually, like you said, an essence. It's a feeling. It's a general vibe that at the end of the year, your staff are actually doing okay. And and I think actually that sometimes the things we can't measure are the most healthy elements of a community or of mental wellness. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. And I think if I think about my journey with this, it's actually the conversations that I've had that have created the most impact and the most change on my life, rather than saying I'm only going to work till 3 o'clock on a Friday. That's if I've got energy and I'm engaged and I'm motivated, like why not work till 5 on a Friday? Like I don't think that we can create this like really fixed, okay, we're going to do, 4-day work weeks and we're going to measure that and we're going to get really clear on how much does this increase people's well-being and their time with family. For me, it's more of a conversation. It's more of an essence. It's more of being able to, go into these workplaces and just see people smiling and at ease and not hustling and bustling and rushing around and trying to, measure their self-worth by how long they stay, I think, or how much output they put out. It's about kind of this conversation and starting that and sparking something in people. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's so cool to hear. I love it. And bring on more of that in our business owners, our SMEs and our leaders. I think that's so important. But honestly, it has been such a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much, Ashlee, for sharing, your learnings through our leadership program, but also, what life looks like now and what it's going to look like in the future. And we're excited to, support you along the way as well with anything you need from the community. So I'm looking forward to seeing the journey unfold.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I've really appreciated it. And I love jumping on the Icehouse website and seeing what everyone's up to. So appreciate that too.